In previous session, we have discussed about the static context and where we are using this static context. What is the purpose of static context? Now, the next thing is this. Now, what is this? This is just a keyword in Java, right? The simple thing. This is the meaning, is a general meaning. This is used to refer to the current object. It can be applied to the method or constructor, right? Which means that it is not like this dot constructor, this dot method, like that. That this keyword can be used in constructors or methods.
Sir, your
So,
voice is breaking, sir. Hello.
okay, so this keyword is used in Java to refer to the current object that can be used in the methods or in the constructors. Whenever you want to parameterize any values to the method, right, or through the constructor, you have to use this keyword. Why we have to use this keyword explicitly is there is ambiguity between the instance variables and the parameters that we are passing. For example, now here say now I have instance variable yes here, and the parameter also I'm just passing yes. So to differentiate, right, ambiguity, this you have to use this dot yes means to the current class, no matter. Now in our case this is string yes, we are sending from this class, so this time it is okay. If you are sending from the outside of this class, then the parameter s has to be assigned to the current variable which is there in our class. So this is the constructor. This we have to use in the constructor. The same thing you can use in the method also. So no matter whether it is a constructor or a method, if you are passing parameters through that method or a constructor, and if you want to assign that incoming parameter values to the current class variables, then you have to use this so that ambiguity will be not occurred. So we are safe to override that values or assign that values to the current class variables from the parameters. So there is nothing much in that. If you see that simple example right now, I am passing this child class, okay, parameter. Now this child class parameter I am sending to this constructor, and you can assign this s equals to yes, then you could see this value will be strictly assigned to the current class variable. So this is how you can use this keyword, and there is nothing more detail on that. Okay, let's see that final keyword. Now what is this final keyword? Final is nothing, we already discussed in the polymorphism concept. Final keyword in Java, it is used to restrict the users not to make any changes. Means once any method, class or a variable is declared as final, it cannot be changed. The value cannot be changed, or the value cannot be overridden. The method cannot be overridden. The class cannot be extended. So where and all where I can apply this final, it can be applied to the class, methods, variables also. But make sure the final cannot be applied to the constructors, because constructors cannot be inherited, right? Those are never inherited. As a variables can be passed from parent to child, constructors also, right? Sorry, constructors cannot be inherited from parent to child. You can override the methods of parent to child, right, like this, because that is the reason it cannot be applied to the constructors. Why do we use final? Indicates that this variable or a method cannot be modified or cannot be extended. These things are one-time installation, which means no one can change, no one can override this variables, methods or classes, whichever it is declared as finals, which means it is simple thing. It is restricting the user from changing the values or the contents that are declared as finals. In real-time scenario, this final is used that makes sure that if no one wants to extend your class, then you can mark the class as final, right? You see that string also is a data type. This is non-primitive data type. String is a class. See, you see this one, string is a final class. This cannot be extended. Say, let's say for example, now I have a class, okay, parent. Instead, I'm trying to extend the string class. Okay, now you could see what is happening. The child class cannot subclass the final class string, which means the class which is declared as final cannot be extended. In our case, this string is the final class, so this is already built-in class, predefined class in java.lang package. You could say java.lang package. These things are declared as final. Once the class is declared as final, the methods inside all these things are cannot be changed. If a class is final, means you cannot instantiate that class and you cannot update that class. Only the values if you want to acquire from this final class can be possible using get methods. Using set methods you cannot. In this final class, firstly we don't have any set methods. You could see that set, right? We don't have a set method, but you could see this, we can have a get method. So you see this one, we have a get methods. So if you want to see that in a custom class, okay, let's create a one simple custom class. For Java final class. Now let's create this. Cannot be, okay, just create some one class, public int customer ID or public string name. Now this is just a simple class. Okay, now this is public. Now what we are trying to do, we are marking this as final. Okay, now to let this final, just say generate setter getter methods and say select all and see now it is declared. Now this one, this now when I try to access or extend this class to the child class, you see again, this final class cannot be overridden. So this is the purpose of final class. Now let's go by this final with for variables. Now if I declare this variables as final, you could see the errors are there, which means you cannot override that values, you cannot update that values, which means these set methods cannot be applicable to the final variable. You see that blank final field CID may not have been initialized. So just declare this also, right? Right. Final variables must be initialized at the first phase only. This is the first thing. Any variable that is declared as final has to be initialized with the default values. Otherwise, it will not go ahead with the further validation, means further restrictions. According to the final, right? If the variable is declared as final, make sure final in the sense, right, the first default value should be allocated, first default value should be assigned, which means that no one should change, right? So something I have to hold that, right, so that other user will not change my value. So you have to assign some value to that final. So that is the reason it is expecting that default value, something has to be assigned. The next thing is that you cannot assign, again it is a final field cannot be reassigned, means it is you cannot assign that one using set method. Set method is nothing but what it is trying to set the values to us, right? In real time scenario, the values cannot be static, means at time to time the values will be keep changing. For the first call the values will be different, and the second user the values will be different. For example, now so see, if you want to retrieve the customer data, right, each customer have its own ID. Based on ID we will be getting their required data, their relevant data, right? So then if you set that, the get will be get that. No, that is called as a updated value. But in this final class, that there is some certain rules that no one cannot be overridden, which means there are sort of bank rules. For example, for the every customer have the same rules, right? No matter how many customers are there registered with that bank, the bank have their own rules, right? So they just pull the data from the database and just display that. Means what values are they have initially assigned, that the same information can be available to all the customers. So this you have to remove the get set methods. Now try to regenerate this get set methods. We could see this now. This term you could not see the set methods, which means you cannot reassign that values once it is assigned. That is the restriction. Means once the variable is declared as final, we cannot override these values. So but how you do that? Who are you doing that? Just take an example of take a main class public static void main. From here I pass the values to this guy. So create a object Java final class. Okay, this cannot something object Java final class. Sorry, we are trying to initialize now. I'm sending ID customer ID is 1 to 1 and say John. Now you see this one. Our constructor and argument is undefined. We don't have any constructor. Okay, let's create a constructor to this one. Create a constructor and say generate constructor using fields. Then now you see this. When you are trying to create the constructor, that the selector type contains no fields which may be initialized in a constructor, which means then you cannot assign the values with the help of constructor also. Which means this the values are declared as final, right? Whatever the data you have given it initialized here at the first level, that has to be available across all the instance, even with the help of same class also, same class object or same class constructor. You cannot pass updating values from here in the sense, right? You are overriding the values here. Okay, now if we explicitly try to assign this dot cid equals to 1 to 1 also, right? Now could see this, then cannot use this in a static context. That is one thing. And suppose you want to pass this value from some method, public void assign values. Okay, here you see this error is there. Final field cannot be assigned. No matter from where and how you try to access those things, cannot be changed. That now let's see, remove this final from here and put it as final and say try to create a constructor using fields. Now it allows you to create a constructor. Why? Because our variables are not final. Now just see here, through with the help of object you are sending these values, but your object is final, right? Now when I try to create an object, 1 2 2, okay, something, and here I'm setting new values. Okay, you could say this, the values you have set here, you still have access to change the values, but you see this, what values you are getting here. See, 1 to 1, 1 to John, when you are assigning these values here. So, but updating this Java, say this class object is final, it makes sense that. So here anyone can update these values again. So that is always best practice to make this class as final or this variables declared as final, so that it will not let you to update your values from and we're outside. Now see this here, this constructor remove final modifier, but no, it is not. Right now here you not having any exception here because you already have a constructor, but anyway your constructor is not allowed to modify any values. Now let's remove these two things, right? It doesn't make sense that, but if you try to print these values, right, as a part of constructor, what values you could see this second something example. See, it's still taking the values from this guy, right? What do you see this one? John Kumar. So who is printing this? This constructor is printing this one. Even though the values are declared as final, right? You can still pass that. How you can pass that? With the help of this class constructor, right? Now, once you declared as variables final, this keyword is not applicable. Means this for the current object, the values are declared as final, variables are declared as final, you cannot update. If you want to update the values, then you can pass this through constructors. If you want to override the values with the help of some instance method, right, you can not possible. See, now when I say CID equals to something, now this also not possible. CID is declared as final, it cannot be changed. So this is the way that we can assign the values to our final variable so that it will be accessible to across all. No one cannot modify from outside of this, right? So this is how the final works. And now coming to the inheritance concept, polymorphism, as we discussed in the previous examples also, if any method that is declared as final cannot be inherited, right? You see this public final void assign values. Now here I'm printing something, this not assign a values. Okay, now what we do, we try to override this in the child class. It will not be possible, right? Assign values cannot override the final method from the parent class. This is vice versa. If you have a method that is declared in final, that cannot be overridden in the parent. If you just see there is a void make call and void make call here. Now we don't have exception there. Now the amended make as a final. You could see and go to the parent and see this one, right? It does not have any exception. Why? What happens here? The final keyword means I have not overridden here, right? I'm using this one. Let's so here, when something is there in the parent, then it is already there, then you cannot override this in the child class. But if you have a final method in the child class that cannot be restricted to the parent, because it will not look back and see this, right? Public void make call, you can do that. So any method that is there in the parent, and you cannot be again override that method that is declared as final. So this is how means there are certain methods which you just have to call the final methods without changing their implementation. In that scenario, that use case, you have to go with the final methods. You cannot override, you just have to consume those methods which are there in the parent. So there are some certain restrictions are there. There are, which means that the banks, if you think that they have their own calculations of a particular bank, you cannot go and change that. You can still have that class of method implementation in our class. How you do that? If you want to make a say that now I have a make call, now I just want to call that guy, but so how you do then using final, right? Fine, you cannot modify it, but you still just access the values. No, final things cannot be ever changed. You just inherit what they are providing. Okay, coming to the rules now, a final variable that is declared, right? It's just like a constant, and value cannot be changed whatever it may be. Method that is declared as final cannot be overridden by the subclass or other child class. A class that is declared final cannot be inherited by any other class, as we see in these two examples as is predefined string class and the custom class. We can declare a parameter final, but then we'll not be able to change the value of the parameter inside the method. That's we seen, right? From the inside method, we are not allowed to change those values from the inside method. Only can send the values through the constructor. No way from outside also cannot be possible. So this also about final. And let's talk about the super keyword. What is the super? Super in the sense that this is a base, means where we use this super in Java. It can be then this super keyword is applicable, applied to only polymorphism concept. So why do we need super? This super is used to access the members, means the variables, constructors, methods of a super class. Super class in the sense parent class. How you do that? That using super keyword, you have to refer to the parent class, method, variable, or a constructor. You have to give the proper syntax. When you have a variable or a method name in a child class which is already present in the parent class, then how you do that as a polymorphism, right? Let's see here. What we do is a child class, you have a make call. So by default, when you say make call, say it goes here, but it cannot call the parent class method, since you have a method make call already there in our child class. But you still want to acquire, you still want to have the parent class behavior also before your make call. Before your child class method gets involved. But it's not always the case, but there are certain scenarios that before your make call happens, right? Child class method gets involved. Make sure that parent class method also has to be executed first, then your child class method has to execute the rest of the process, which means that you are inheriting partial, you have implemented partial behavior in your method, which is already allowed in addition to the parent class method. That case, how you call this one? Using super. Now you say just use super dot, it will list do all the methods that are assigned in that parent class, same methods, variables also. Now say make call. Now one more step here, you have to use this super keyword as the first statement in the method or a constructor. You cannot just put something somewhere like this. So it is always best practice to move that, right? But in case of constructor, this never works. It don't have, right? This have a proper tags. Now See now what is the errors? Constructor call must be the first statement, but the same is not applicable for the method. In method, you can have this code of block before and after, but in case of calling a constructor, this super keyword is the first parameter that you need to call the parent class constructor. Now let's see one by one. Now in this child class, when I call my constructor, first, I don't want call my constructor first. I want to call the super class constructor. The moment you click super is see, it goes to the parent class constructor. Then say first call the parent constructor. Then again, it will come back to here and say, what is this value? Then I will print the rest of things. Then the same way for method also. First, the moment you call this, child make call will invoke, but if you want to invoke this parent call first, then you have to use the super keyword. The moment you use a super keyword, then it will call the parent class method. Then it come back to the child class and execute that one. Now let's see this how it works. See now parent class constructor is what, which means this when you call this one, it goes here. This parameter you set it here. This parameter, whatever you are saying child class, right, it go here and assign these values. Once it is executed, once it is execution is done, then it come back here and say this guy is getting worked. And the next thing is make a call. Similarly for make call also, this guy go here, and before it print here, first it print the parent call, parent make call, and then come back to the child make call. So this is how you can access the superclass members and methods and constructors. And one more thing here, this guy is say hello. Now if I have to change this something, now if want to access this parent class variable hello, how do you do that? Now in this method, super dot, yes, now I am trying to access superclass variable here in make call. Okay, then yes, printing. Let's see that how it goes. Child make call child class. Now you are passing this value here, this guy, right? This guy is sending back the values to this guy. Now say parent hello will not be come to you because this dot variable we have changed, right? This current variable is assigned to the incoming variable. Now if you want to see that how this is working, for that now string str, okay, say parent hello. Now this time say str. Now you see you could get that actual value parent hello, right? There is this value is not overridden. Here no one is overridden this value parent hello, but this s is overridden with the help of pair child. Means child class is passing these values, and this using this keyword it is overridden, means it is change the value. So that is the reason you get this s means this value, and say str is the one which no one have overridden. So if you have variables like that in the parent class, if you want to access that you can call like this. No matter if for example now if your method is returning something as this return statement, then we just say string something is what type of return type it is, right? You just declare the return type and assign that return to your string and printed. For example, now just say assign values, right? Okay, one more thing, this take public string get message. This guy returns some message to us. Test message. Now this guy is returning a test message. Now this is a super dot get message. Now what get message returning, you just assign this to your data type and print that message. Say test message, you could see this like that. You can play according to our requirement. So simple. This is used to call the superclass or parent class attributes. Attributes are nothing but that methods, variables, constructors. Before your class gets invoked, if you want to acquire your parent class behavior, then you can use this this super keyword, and it can be applied to only inheritance concept. It cannot just apply something if there is no relationship. Now let's talk about this. Remove this one. Now you say super. What is this super? You don't have a super method, right? If you just say super, there is a object class which works, because this super this time it goes to your object class. But we are saying explicitly one parameterized, but that is not there in our object class. See, all these methods are not available. That is the reason we can say this super keyword is used for inheritance concept. When there is a relationship that has a relationship, then only we can use this one. We cannot just use somewhere like that. So this is all about our keyword.